here any minute now, but we do have enough. But it does look like we have a quorum at this point. And we have some guests, so great. And with that, I'll do a quick roll call and call the meeting to order. And so Danny Steyer.
I'm here.
Okay. Greg Wall.
I'm here.
Thank you. Shelby Leon.
Here.
Thank you. Dax Albrecht.
Here.
Thank you. Lida Scoggin.
I'm here.
Marsha Roby.
Here.
Thank you. And with us today, we have Sherry Pryor, Kest Porter, Cindy Ramsey, Clint Cobley, Kate Alexander, Roger Diefendorf, and Gina Chamberlain. All right. Thank you all for joining us as additional attendees. And with that, may I please have an approval of today's agenda?
Marcia, I so approve.
Okay. And a second, please.
I second it.
Greg, thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. And may I please have a motion to approve the April 21st, 2025 meeting minutes?
I move to approve the April 21st, 2025 minutes.
Thank you, Lida. And may I have a second?
Shelby will second.
Shelby, thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All right, thank you. Any opposed? Okay, none opposed. All right, great, thank you. So first item on our agenda is public input. Yes, Sherry or Kest?
That's me. Just two things quickly, because we can't be here past 3:30, so I'm not sure how soon you'll get to these things. I just wanted to express my support for this project with the down payment assistance program. That just sounds like a really great way to help get more people here into Greenville. And the second piece is the Greenville Rotary Club Century Ride grant request. We put a lot of work into that. It'd be great to see some support from the Dixie Fire Collaborative and doing that to help bring people in and get people back to our valley. So just want to support those. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Kest. Affirmative support for the down payment assistance program. And obviously, as you are a Rotary member, and the Greenville Rotary is not only sponsoring, but has created, coordinated, is doing everything for the Century Ride. And there was a grant request that was submitted by the Greenville Rotary Club that the steering committee will be listening to later. In fact, I did send an invite to Tani. I'll text her here in a little bit, but I think she was planning on coming just to be able to elaborate a little bit more fully on what the grant request was for in relation to the budget that was submitted as well. So, but I'll follow up with her in a moment. All right. Well, thank you. Any additional public comment? All right. Well, we'll go ahead and move on. So just some quick background. So we're on to our next item. This is the Plumas County Community Development Commission, and more specifically, the Plumas County Development Corporation, which is the sort of the adjacent nonprofit organization that works with the CDC. And they have a $25,000 grant request that was submitted that we reviewed 2 weeks ago. So if you recall, on the 21st, that was where there was a lot of discussion around what specifically the outcomes were for this $25,000. And it was really breaking down into two components: $15,000 that was going to RCAC with really $1,000, $8,000, and $6,000 identified for different stages of what Ms. Chamberlain, who's joined us on the call, for what her work at RCAC would be providing. And then there was an additional question around the $10,000 that would be going to the PCDC And so, just so everybody knows, we have Miss Chamberlain from RCAC on the call, as well as Kate Anderson, who was the coordinator for this program with the town of Paradise, to talk about some compare and contrast, and just really kind of what some of the outcomes were, and really just think Miss Anderson is going to talk about. I think I called her Alexander before. Sorry about that. That's my mistake. Kate Anderson. For what just really what the role entailed and just what the program entailed with regard to administration. And then, of course, Roger Diefendorf, the executive director, is here from the PCDC, as well as Cindy Ramsey, who's the financial director for the PCDC, and then Clint Cobley, who's worked with Roger on the development of the plan from the get-go. So with some of the additional items that were sent out to everyone, there were questions around the $10,000 budget, and there's been a draft budget that has been produced. There's a proposed budget, I think. You'll see that it's a basic table breakdown that has staff hours and then miscellaneous expenses, and then there is a budget narrative that kind of speaks to what the projected staff hours of 90 hours being spent on this and what that dollar amount looks like, and then the delta that will be absorbed through some of the administrative costs around banking fees, additional insurance fees, and other items for those folks to run this program. And then you can see a much larger budget that was also sent in specifically with regard to, I think, the overall expenses for what they have right now and where this kind of fits in. So with that, I just wanted to provide some of the background in sort of where we were 2 weeks ago. What were some of the lingering questions that still existed? So it was around the $10,000 that was going to the PCDC. Also, how this program would compare and contrast with the Town of Paradise program. And then also specifically to what the additional $15,000 of the overall 25 that was going to the RCAC and what that was going to do. So with that, I'll turn it over to Roger. If you wanted to kind of take it from here and elaborate on those items.
Thank you, Patrick. Yes, at the last meeting 2 weeks ago, there were questions about the $10,000 portion of the request that would be covering administrative costs. And so we have Cindy Ramsey here, who is our finance director, who has put together some information on that. But even before I call on her, I'd like to add that Kate Anderson, who retired from the position of housing director in Paradise at the end of last year, was running the Paradise Down Payment Assistance Program, has a lot of insight into how that program worked there. And in addition, we have Gina Chamberlain, who is, I believe the correct title is Housing Manager for RCAC, and she has graciously agreed to be on this call as well to help talk about what's involved in actually putting the down payment assistance program together and how their program and consulting with us on that would work. So I'd like at this point to introduce Cindy Ramsey and have her make some comments as to what our administrative costs would be working with RCAC in order to get this program up and running.
Yes, hello. So Cindy Ramsey, Finance Director for the Housing Authority. The proposed budget is the broad overview of the 10,000 that is being requested for the admin costs. And so as Patrick stated, the top portion is the breakdown of the staff hours, and then the middle section is the miscellaneous expenses for a total budget $9,950.95. And how I came up with those numbers is essentially based off of what RCAC proposed to us. I guess it's been a little while, a few months. And so the wages and benefits based off of what the current salaries are, that is how we come up with the $6,509.73. And then for those miscellaneous expenses, because the agency administers several different programs, the way that we allocate those overhead expenses and the miscellaneous expenses is by a percentage of what the hours are for that particular program divided by the total annual hours that that person works. And so that equates to just about 1%. We like even numbers or round numbers, so it's just a solid 1%. And so I did provide you with kind of our average of what our indirect has been for the last several months to kind of come up with each of those numbers as far as like a justification. And so with RCAC's proposal, they mentioned that they may take up to 3 trips. So presumably that would mean some of our staff would also have to make those same trips. So I did account for all of that into this budget. And then again, that incidentals line is for anything that we know will probably come up. However, we don't know exactly what those expenses are. So that's what that $1,500 is. So yeah. Questions on the breakdown or any particular item within this proposed budget?
Any thoughts, team? Anything? This adds a little bit more detail from where we were 2 weeks ago. Quite a little bit more, and specifically what the staff time is, and then what was described as indirect cost before, just where that money is going with regard to the PCDC. So if there's any more lingering questions there, then perhaps we can discuss some of the other the funding around that's going directly to RCAC.
All right, well, thank you, Patrick. One of the things that this board asked for was to compare and contrast the proposed program that we're looking at for Plumas County. One of the problems in that is that the program has not been fully developed. I've had some nice conversations with Kate Anderson from Paradise, who managed their program for some time. The board had wanted to know more about the Paradise program, and I think that at this point it would probably be useful to ask Kate to talk a little bit about the program that they managed in Paradise and some of the things that they learned about that worked better and some things that didn't work better. Kate, I'm going to call on you at this point. Thank you so much.
Yes, no problem at all. I do just want to mention that the town of Paradise is happy to help in any way possible. We're working with all other communities that have been disaster affected, and clearly we're at different phases throughout. So just know that we're happy to provide whatever information we can. One side note, the administrative costs that have been asked for are very, very difficult to coordinate when you are working within grants. Grants don't often allow you much in the way of admin, if any. So it really is very good foresight to ask for some of that administration right off the bat, along with the amount going to RCAC, which I'm sure they'll discuss further. But while we can offer you guidelines and all our forms, it's really up to Plumas County or your housing authority to set the structure of the program. And if you don't know how, that's very difficult to do. So when Roger told me that you were teaming up with RCAC, who I have a ton of respect for, their price point is a very good price point for what they're looking to develop for you. So I've been the manager, housing manager with the town of Paradise, and run a first-time homebuyer program for 17 years. Clearly, that's pre-fire, post-fire, all of that. And before the fire, we only offered 40,000 because we had house prices that could be as little as 250,000. It wasn't until after the fire that we realized the need was there for larger amount. We were able to, with our funders, go up to and offer a subsidy limit of 100,000 because our home prices, being new, had shot up dramatically. So I think a key area that Plumas County will have to look at is, where are you allowing this subsidy? And I believe RCAC will do this study for you. Where are you interested in offering your subsidy? What is it going to buy? So for instance, if they're buying in Quincy, and I understand from Roger, there aren't a lot of housing available, but your housing stock is more mature than you will find in Greenville. You may get contractors to build there, but the houses are going to be more expensive because they're going to be new. So things like, where is the boundaries for your program? How much are you offering? Requires market studies and such. We just understood our market, having done it for so long. It's not that the town could step in and help you make those decisions. The other aspect to it is, we, all 17 years that I've worked there, we had steady income streams. I shouldn't even call it income, grant writing streams to fund these programs. And it's continuously been through Cal Home, the home program applied through the state, CDBG, RDA when we had it. So we've had and known our funding sources, whereas I believe RCAC will really be able to help you identify those funding sources for a longevity of the program. And I just want to mention one more thing, and then I'm happy to take whatever questions you'd like. We have seen such an influx after the fire of 20-some-year-olds. These were, I'll call them kids who were fire affected, living in their parents' home. Maybe they had their first rental in Paradise, but they are an age range where they either have a young family or are just starting out. So we are really happy to be able to offer this assistance to potentially not only people who have roots in Paradise, maybe similar, you'll have people with roots in Plumas County, but they also have the opportunity for the longevity. They're going to be in this area for a long time and raising their children. And we're delighted to have that change in demographic. So with that said, is there anything in particular, any questions that I could answer for you?
Kate, this is Clint Cobley.
Yeah.
How did the influx of the young families that you brought in, and I think you did a great job. I've heard somewhere that you probably brought back about half of the 24,000, maybe even more.
We're about 40%, but yep.
Okay.
We're
But
getting
anyway,
there.
but as far as those families you brought in, how did that affect the schools? Because I assume, and as you said, young families and kids, they kind of go together.
Yeah.
So, was that a positive effect for the schools? I imagine it was.
It was, and it's a little tricky because when you have a disaster, you only have your own demographics to work with, and our demographics changed quickly with the influx of people. Our school district, we had lost a elementary school that was our oldest, probably and largest with the number of students that burned down. So the school district hadn't anticipated this same demographics. So they are very impacted. What that has done is moved up the time frame. They had put on the last ballot for some funding. I think it was a bond to assist with the schools. That actually didn't work. They've managed to piece together a campus that's much of the design has already been approved at our other levels, like they're using the multi-purpose building from the elementary school, some of the classroom buildings from the high school that we've built since, and brought that together, hopefully for a faster plan review. And they've leveraged some of their monies. So you're right, Clint, there was a unintended consequence of us coming back young. But the school district is rising to that occasion and has a solid plan.
Great, thank you.
Yes, Lada, you have your hand up? Go ahead.
How did you get all those 20-year-olds to come back?
That's a really good question. And I will tell you that a lot of it started, or 9/10 of it is probably word of mouth. We put out a weekly newsletter that describes all of the programs, not the housing department per se, but the entire town. After the fire, we had enough emails and contacts. I mean, people living all over the country who are affiliated with Paradise can sign up for these. So a grandmother who moved to North Carolina might have said something, to a grandson. In most cases, it is word of mouth. It is getting the information out there enough for them to call in and say, hey, I heard about this first-time home buyer. How would I qualify? And a key is because the 80% 80% area median income is often a category, the limit for some of the funding sources. If you may be able to tap into, we were able to get 120% AMI, so that allows for higher incomes. That has helped because if you think about a two-person income, it often misses the mark at the two-person level because two younger professionals who are just starting out can make that, but it's harder once people are in a profession for a little while and their incomes raise. It's hard for them to qualify under the 80% AMI, or the 120, much less the 80. So really, I think if you can go after things like work with your high schools who graduated, maybe 20-some-year-olds who are a couple of years out. If they didn't go to college, I would concentrate 2 to 4 years, 2 to 6 years out of high school. Look at those graduating classes, how many families are still in the area. We also have a lot of and I got to believe Greenville, Quincy has the same with a lot of the pioneer type families, names that everyone are familiar with, and getting it through the generations that you now have programs available for even retaining the younger families.
And are these younger people that are coming in, are they working in Chico? Or-
We have a lot all over the board. Chico, we've had pastors who are younger, people who came back. What's really funny is a lot of these kids are my kids' age, and I've coached many of these kids. I was big into baseball and did a lot of coaching, so I know the backstory to a lot of them. Some of them, I would say several of them actually work for PG&E because we have a large group in the area now, PG&E, working with resources and such. Some of them are like one went through theology school and is what was I going to say? Works in a pastor. So they're really all over the board. They can work in Chico with remote telecommunication now. A lot of people can have that ability to work from home, and we've seen that. So we are getting, even if they don't reach our first time home buyer program, there's still a lot of interest in moving up here. We have newer houses. The houses are still less than Chico, even they're brand new. And the lot size is larger. So if you're interested, you can go on to Welcome to the Ridge. It is a campaign put on by our Paradise Ridge Chamber of Commerce, and it really did work with attracting people. They went out to a lot of fairs, had a booth that said, look, come to the Ridge. We have these things to offer. And I'd highly recommend talking to Monica Nolan, the director of our Chamber of Commerce. She put together that because I could see Plumas doing, you guys have such beautiful natural resources that there might be the potential for that. Now, I did mention to Roger, a tricky bit we had at the beginning was, and I assume Greenville is like this, you have to produce the housing before you can sell it as a first-time home buyer. So we had to team up with contractors. A lot of them were local contractors who were already rebuilding for a lot of people, and they might have done custom. We brought them in to do some modest housing, and we were selling them before they were even finished. So if you're interested in talking with some of our contractors, maybe connecting with some of yours just to see how that works, I'm sure they'd be happy. We established a housing advisory committee with nonprofits like CHIP, Habitat, who else is on there? CHIP, Habitat, Valley Contractors Exchange. We have several contractors. We have real estate people, insurance people on this committee just to talk about housing. And several of those contractors who are offering that type of housing, we brought into this committee. So with that said, I'm sorry to
Yeah,
talk
no, that's great, Kate. Thank you for all that background. And for the team here, I did put in a couple items in the chat. There's a link, a website to rebuildparadise.org, and then also Welcome to the Ridge. And I know Clint, we'll talk about the Move Here initiative, because that's important to this. I do, in the interest of time, though, I do want to make sure that if there's anything from Ms. Chamberlain with regard to RCAC, to your point, Lida, and to what Kate just talked about, like, attracting folks to move here, that is a big part of it. And I know that there are individuals that are working on that. But Ms. Chamberlain, if you could just talk to the pieces about how RCAC is involved in this process and really what that $15,000 is contributing towards.
And I am glad I got to go third because I think the context that has been provided by others is helpful. So RCAC, we are a regional nonprofit that serves the 13 Western states. I am the homeownership program manager. I think I got a promotion in the earlier description as being the housing director, but I'm the homeownership program manager within RCAC. So we were brought to this conversation because we do provide a lot of technical assistance, and I have been a part of creating a down payment assistance back in my previous life for the city of Louisville that was using home funds, and created it in a way that met the needs for Louisville. Right now, we're doing some working with several Washington groups and developing down payment assistance for their communities using Washington Housing Trust Fund. So I don't think I'm more than willing to share more about what experience I'm bringing to the table, but we were brought to the conversation because there is this idea of down payment assistance, and then how to get it from a concept to a reality. I believe is broadly speaking what our scope of work is. So it would be building upon, the work of, the Rebuild Paradise, other DPA programs. But I will say there are some unique components that are being requested that we want to also dive into, do a feasibility of, serving the higher income, which Paradise has been able to figure out. A lot of funding sources are focused on just that 80% AMI and below. I believe there is this goal of getting to a higher income. A lot of the previous conversation was hitting on that. So that means different funding sources. So the first piece, step one, is to just run the numbers, show you what that affordability gap is based upon your market, the income levels that you're talking about, family size, what kind of gap is needed. And then the second step would be to have those stakeholder meetings. Now, that sometimes may feel like that's you all have been meeting, you know what you want. And if that's true, then it might be a much faster process. But sometimes what I've experienced in the past is having a shared understanding of how the program will work from start to finish. How are people going to find out about it? Who's going to do what are you actually offering? And then how to weave in your additional goals of getting, the younger population, getting people to return, how to weave all of that in addition to how are you going to get the money? Where's the money going to come from? Is it going to be sustainable? So our goal in step number 2 is to work with you to define the program in the context of what is available. Look at the pros and cons of different choices that y'all would need to make. And then the last step of the process would be to actually help it to write those policies and procedures, including what implementation looks like, and then steps for how to capitalize it going forward. We're not going to capitalize it. We're not going to write the grant applications, but helping point you in the right direction, not try to say, oh yeah, there's a couple $1 billion out there. We want to make sure we're talking about realistic money that exists, that meets the goals of what you want the program to be. So I don't know if that is answering your questions or not.
The team, again, this is a continued conversation. Thank you, Gina, for providing that background and explanation as to what your role is and how you have been able to assist in programs like this. For the steering committee, as it relates to the preponderance, 60% of the money that the PCDC is asking for is going to go to RCAC specifically for this purpose. So if there is a question. Yes, Matt, you have your hand up.
Yes, I mean, my challenge with this program is that we don't have much housing up here, and this program's subsidizing people to buy the housing that there is. So I mean, we're either going to be subsidizing supply of housing or subsidizing demand for housing. And here we're subsidizing demand for housing. But as the previous speaker said, we don't have many houses up here. So is there a way this program can be formulated so that it subsidizes housing, like the building of housing directly So for example, if someone wanted to build a house, would you give them 50 grand or 100 grand
So
to
Matt,
start that with?
I would recommend the memo that I sent out before that read that, because that's an idea to do that. Or like, when Kest was talking about the build to sell, like, so Kest and his team that are doing exactly that. But as those houses are built, then someone needs to buy them. And so a program like this would help somebody buy a house like that. Is that's
Is it only like new builds? Because my concern with this is that it's subsidizing people to buy houses that are already there. So, I mean, it's much easier to buy a house than it is to build a house. And we just don't have enough houses anyway, right? But is there a way that we could put it where
Yeah.
it has to be a new house?
Are you saying you want it to be? Because none of these things also are mutually exclusive. Like they don't just like it's not just one thing. There is no magic bullet here. Like none of these is just going to solve the problem. Is that so? You're saying is can this go directly to new houses? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Okay.
so most houses that are bought or transacted here is someone buying a house that's already built. You
Mhm.
come in, you buy a house that was built 30 years ago. And if we're subsidizing people buying houses that were built 30 years ago, we're not solving anything in terms of the housing crisis or housing problem for the supply of housing. And if 90% of the money goes towards buying existing houses, old houses, then that's really not helping out much. I mean, there's not people. It's not like if someone lists a house for sale that no one's buying the house. That's not what's happening.
But if there were half a dozen houses between now and next April, and that the program like this allowed like a young family to be able to purchase a house, is that something you would support?
Yeah, if it was
Half a dozen new houses, I should say.
if it was restricted to those new houses, not someone buying a house that was built 50 years ago,
Okay.
then yeah, because my concern is that most houses that people buy are old houses, existing houses, and this program is available for that purpose, then most of the money will go for subsidizing people to live in existing houses, and it does nothing to solve our housing crisis.
Okay, no problem. I just wanted to clarify specifically.
I can partially answer that question. And in order to build houses, you have to have buyers. And so part of the economics of building houses is being able to provide people who want to buy the houses with some additional assistance with the down payment in order to make that happen. So hopefully that partially answers the question of the economics in terms of building as well.
Okay.
Sure, I mean it'll definitely help, but I mean it's not if it's not restricted to that, then that won't happen. So if this program is going to be restricted to new builds, fine, that's good. But if it's just going to be subsidizing anyone buying a house, or I don't know, it's not going to make any difference to our supply of housing.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. Gina has her hand up, but Greg, you had your hand up. Did you have a question, or was your question already answered? Or did you have a comment?
Well, Matt addressed a lot of it. And to me, like, as I brought up before, if you can't really, we're the Dixie Fire Collaborative, and we're like, it's not about helping everybody. It's sort of like helping people in the burn scar to me. And this kind of thing, if particularly like what Matt said, if it's not restricted to like new builds, then people are going to buy houses in Quincy. They're going to buy houses in Chester. They're going to buy houses in Portola. And that's not going to really help Greenville at all. And then like looking, like the La Sierra Chamber of Commerce for the move-in, they said, that from Gray Eagle to Chester through Portola, Quincy, Gowdyville, Plumas and Sierra counties are ripe. No mention of Greenville for the move-in, welcome here, for the Lost Chamber. So, I mean, like it would have been nice to even see Greenville mentioned.
Mhm. So in that memo, you'll see that there is a Welcome to Greenville campaign that is getting started, specifically on the build to sell model RRA Builders that's been active in Paradise. Their first home will be on Hot Springs Road by July. Is the moving sell bit. Ms.
But that's not in the
Chamberlain,
Lost Sierra memo or in the Lost Sierra program.
so I was sharing that as an example. of just how that, that was just, that's what's out there now. And that I know that we've talked about it at these meetings, but just to remind everybody of some of these marketing campaigns that help, drive homeownership in the area. Ms. Chamberlain, you have your hand up?
And I guess I would just, these are all good questions. And some of it is, could it be restricted to this? Could it be restricted to people returning? How do you want to design the program? What parameters can you build in? I will say a lot of that is what we see coming out of stakeholder meetings. And then what can you do? What can't you do when it comes to, how you want to implement it, lending law, but how you design the program. I would put everything on the table, and then it would be figuring out what's viable, what's feasible, what do you actually want to do? The building new versus existing, that, can you make that a priority? Can you make it a requirement? One program we work with a lot is a program in Washington State where it can be new construction, it can be existing homes, or it can be down payment assistance. Same amount of money per house for all three. And so it's just, where do you put the investment? I will say for new construction, one of the biggest pieces, and this is outside of our scope, except I would encourage these folks to be at the stakeholder meeting, is, are they building the houses for the people that you want to be returning? Do they know that there's this DPA that's going to make it affordable? So that conversation of building new is not happening in a vacuum, that they are, and it sounds like you're already doing a lot of that work, but are they aware of this piece? And so that they know if they build houses of a certain type, that there's going to be some resources available to help people purchase those homes. There are some funding sources that are more directed towards new construction, and we can identify those, but I think that is outside of our purview of making those additional connections. But I think you have been setting the stage of figuring out who can be doing the building and where. So then it would be, are there resources available for people to purchase those homes?
Well, I'm gonna jump in. Patrick went somewhere, but so I just got a comment and thinking about this. What we have on the table right now is funds to develop a program, correct? That's what's on the table. That's the request, is about the funds to create the program.
That's correct.
And as I'm sitting here thinking about this whole thing, as long as we have it, as this program starts going down the road and we get funding sources coming in, as long as we can come back and direct a portion of that to the burn scar area, that's our concern. We don't want to fund something then have nothing happen in the burn scar area. But I realize that this is funding to get the program rolling, is what it is.
Yeah.
It's not dedicating the resources that has come in.
Well, we've always talked about targeting the burn scar area as being the most important part of this program.
Yeah, and as long as we get that in there and everybody understands that from the get-go, I think that's, I know my concern, and I think I've heard that concern from other steering members as well.
I think Kate's got her hand up, Patrick.
Yeah, sorry about that, folks. I had to step away for a quick moment. Yes, hi. Go ahead, Kate. You wanted to add?
Just a incentivizing the contractors is a very good thing. The contractors, bringing them in, But monetarily incentivizing someone who's going to make a profit regardless is a little bit of a slippery slope. Whereas if you can incentivize them with things like reduced permit fees and accelerated permit fees and all of those, in addition to here are my buyers waiting for houses through the first time homebuyer program, then you can talk directly to the developers. I think it was Patrick who mentioned I'm trying to remember the folks who come in with the mobile
RRA
home.
builders?
Yes, we've worked with RRA. They tend to do mostly mobile homes. We have a lot of Ukrainians who came, Ukrainian, Russian, who came up from Sacramento. I do believe they could be lured to your area, Greenville. And what you've talked about, this is all part of setting up the program. If it is specifically for disaster recovery and in the burn scar and such, there are benefits to that. You can make those rules in your guidelines. It doesn't have to be specifically for Quincy or other places that were unaffected. So just wanted to mention those items.
Okay. Well, so this is the second iteration of us discussing this, and we've got the subject matter experts here. Are there any, again, lingering questions, comments, concerns by the team steering committee here?
Yeah, actually, Patrick, I don't know if you heard what I was commenting while you were out, if you were in earshot or not. My thing was kind of reinforcing that I've heard here throughout is, number one, this what we're talking about right now is to research and implement and start a program, to develop a program. As far as implementation and funding and such, and what was Kate also supported this idea is that we would like to ensure that the burn scar area is addressed and what we're helping the facility get started.
Yeah, Danny, I mean, that's what it sounds like. I mean, not what it sounds like. I mean, that's what it is. It's to actually plan it out and to design it based off of the parameters that are set forth by the myriad of stakeholders, whether they be in the burn scar, outside the burn scar, et cetera. So, not to say that it's a little bit cart before the horse, that all this is happening like tomorrow, but it's not, right? There's still a lot of questions that need to be answered with what the guidelines would be, and that's where you all continue to weigh in. That's where anybody that has an interest in housing can weigh in and say like what this could be or should be based off of what the demand is. And then relying on the expertise that RCAC and Ms. Chamberlain can provide, some of the lessons learned that from Paradise, where it fits, where it doesn't fit, et cetera. And then, but at least getting out the door to design something instead of it just being dead on arrival is kind of that's my recommendation, is to allow the design to at least happen, one way, shape, or another. Yes, Clint, you have your hand up.
Well, yes, when Roger and I first approached the Board of Supervisors back in January of this year, for this program, as Roger mentioned, we really wanted to target the burn scar areas. So the funds that we would hopefully tap into to fund this program, I think could be pretty well determined by the Board of Supervisors. They're gonna be approving this. So I think they're gonna be a major factor in how this should lay out, whether it's all for new houses or burn scar only, whatever. So that's one thing I wanted to say. And the other thing I wanted to address to Kate, and Kate, I know you're retired, but since I've been working on this down payment and the move-in packages for well over a year, recently I've contacted realtors in Reno, Redding, Chico, and around here, and they're all telling me that they're getting hits from people, and not only people who want to get out of the big urban areas into smaller areas, but like some of the people in the LA area that are looking at Northern California. And Kate, I just wanted to know, I know you're retired, but are you hearing those things yourself, about, Chico and Paradise and Northern California?
Yeah, honestly, I think COVID, maybe that was a little silver lining, is the ability to work remotely. So we have seen an influx from out of the area. As I mentioned, our Chamber of Commerce really did marketing all the way from Sacramento into the Bay Area. So we do have a lot of that. And I think the telecommunications are allowing it now. So I think it's definitely something to work with RCAC, identify how you can attract.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's just some additional background and things to think about. All right, team. Any like, kind of going once, going twice? Any more questions or comments?
Patrick, I do have to leave at 4 o'clock straight up, a hard stop for me. So I'm not abandoning you. I just that I have a hard stop at 4. So
Okay, no problem, Clint. Thanks.
sure, Roger and Kate and Gina can carry it.
Yeah. All right. Well, is there anybody that would like to put forth a motion to approve the $25,000 grant request to the PCDC for the contracting with RCAC on the down payment assistance program?
I so moved, Marcia, is what you said for the 25,000.
Okay.
I'll
So
second it.
basically, it's a motion to approve the $25,000 grant request to the PCDC.
Yeah.
Okay, Marcia Roby.
I'll second it.
Second it.
Got two of
okay.
us.
All right, well, I'll go, Danny, I saw your thumb go up there. So Danny Steyer, a second, and I will do a roll call vote. Lyda Scoggin,
Yes.
Marcia Roby,
Yes.
Danny Steyer,
Yes.
Greg Walsh,
Need unmute, Greg, or are you abstaining or quieting?
I'm okay with it.
is that a yes?
That'll be a yes, yeah.
Okay. Matt Fogarty,
Yes.
Shelby Lamb,
Yes.
Dax Albrecht.
Yes.
Okay, and with all 7 steering committee members that are here, the motion stands approved. So the $25,000 grant request to the PCDC is approved. All right. Well,
Make us proud,
thank you all.
Patrick, can I say something real quickly?
Yes, please, Clint.
I want to thank the steering committee for asking those hard questions a couple of weeks ago. I think it forced us into maybe more detail than we thought we needed to provide, and that's why we had Gina and Kate here. So it's your money to approve. It's a lot of money for you, but thank you for asking those hard questions. I think it just made us think harder, work harder to have a better presentation.
And I'd like to comment real quickly to thank both Kate and Gina. Gina's been on the road for 3 weeks. I talked to her on Friday afternoon and she said, I can't possibly put anything together in writing, but I can rearrange my schedule to be on that call today. And so I want to thank both of them because they really put out an effort to help explain all of this to the committee.
And I, for myself, I appreciate them being here to help clarify.
Me too.
All right. Well, thank you across the board. Yes, for everyone attending, Roger, Clint, Cindy, Kate, and Gina. Thank you all very much. We're going to go ahead and move on to our next agenda item, and we'll get started with that. So thank you again. You're more than welcome to stay on if you'd like. No big deal. So the next item that we had was a grant request from the Greenville Rotary Club to support their Century Ride grant request. And I sent that out in the calendar invite as well. That grant request was for $7,000 and it's for some of it's for like some one-time costs that they think that they're gonna have this time, which is as it relates to their advertising. So they've got some signs and banners. So Tawny Preston, she wrote the grant on behalf of the Rotary Club, and that's when I stepped away for a moment. She just stopped by. She and her husband David were on their way to the Cy Hall Museum meeting because they have to talk about that. So she could not attend, unfortunately. But they're asking a total of $7,000, and so 2,000 of that is going to some large banners and signs that will say like, welcome to the race, thank you for coming to the race. These are signs that will be stretched out over the road. I think, let's see, if you're not familiar with the Century Ride overall, I think we discussed it a little bit the last meeting. I'll put the website in the chat. Right now they are, I think they have roughly 60 registrants. They would like to get above 100, 150, but it's also something that they feel that over, the subsequent years, they'll be able to get a larger ridership going. They had a week and a half ago, they advertised down at a race in Chico and had, they were able to distribute a bunch of their race postcards there. So 2,000 of it's going towards their signage. Another 5,000 is going toward the meals that they're trying to provide for the riders. They've been quoted about roughly $20 a head, and that's where they start to kind of get into some questions around the $5,000 for the meals. Is that depending on how many registrants they have, that'll obviously fluctuate a little bit in what they have to pay out for that. But they think that that's a conservative estimate for what they hope to provide to their riders. So there's two meals. One, they were gonna do meals through the Genesee store is what they had initially planned, and they still might be able to do that. However, the Genesee store is, I guess, they're not going to open as a restaurant anymore, but they might be able to just cater this for the ride because of what they've already, I guess, planned. And then there's the finishing ride or the finishing meal here at the high school through the culinary arts program. They're going to be cooking. I think they're doing tri-tip, like a tri-tip meal for the riders when they finish. And that's really just covering the cost of the food expenses. So that's the request that the Rotary Club has in with us for $7,000. Once again, this is something that they are hoping that will, it'll become a more popular event as the years come. This had been before the fire, the Chamber of Commerce, I think, had sponsored this race at least twice, maybe more than that. Does anybody remember? I can't remember how often they did it. I remember it happened a couple times. And then I know like Mountain Circle Foster Agency, they had done kind of I think it was a springish, what they called the gravel grinder, which was another sort of, multi-mile race, kind of similar to this course, but a little bit different. Anyway, that's what they're asking for is $7,000. What additional questions do folks have or comments?
No, Patrick. Oh,
I just
Okay.
wanted to say that whenever you bring a great amount of people in here, then they also will eat in your restaurants and sleep, in motels that are close. So I think it's good for our community.
Yeah, I mean, Kest, you heard Kest kind of at the beginning. That's kind of it's one of the, not only is it a fun sort of health and fitness event, but it's also hopefully something that drives a little bit of foot traffic into the Indian Valley area. And that, people hang out and they spend money at Evergreen and at Nell's and, Airbnbs and the like. So yeah, that's another big purpose of it. Danny, your hand is up.
yeah, I was hoping to find out, how many, it said the last time it was held was 2019. What was the ridership then? Do we have an idea how many people showed?
I don't know. I don't know. I think it was, I mean, I'm trying to recall. I don't know. I'd say plus or minus 100.
Yeah, because I'm looking at, I looked at the numbers and they've got two targets here and expenses and such based upon 150 riders, another target such based upon 300.
Yep.
And, I kind of went back and forth with those. So if they get 150, they're down $6,000. If they get 300, then they're up 2,000. That's just raw number side of things, just trying to pencil through that. So I was just trying to get in. Right now it says that they have 60, I think is what I'm hearing.
That's what I think. Like when they first put in the grant request, I asked them, and let me see if I can get it.
Well, I just looked at the numbers that were here, based on one and the other. It says unless they
Yeah.
get over 150, they're still going to be in the hole. But this is the thing, as Marcia said, everybody's saying, this is what's bringing people to Greenville, get people back into the valley and to riding around and such. I think that's a great thing to do.
Sure.
I think we want, above all, exposure, and we should want to support that. And I'd love to do that, but it's going to be hard for me to. I'm going to be on a different continent, so I can't ride. I won't be able to ride. So anyway, but yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
I'll yield to Greg.
Oh, Greg, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't see that. I missed that.
So I'm in support of it. I'm wondering if we should include something in the budget to to advertise the move-in program, the Lost Sierra, and as long as we're getting people there, let's put some of this other marketing material in front of them.
Yeah, I would definitely bring that up. Kind of a two birds, one stone type of thing.
Yeah.
I just texted Tani to see if their numbers had increased, and she said right now they're close to 100, and they're estimating about 130. By the time the race happens, because she said that something actually, in Kess reiterated this when they were talking, is that a lot of times those that decide to ride, they often decide within like a week of the race because of weather, right? So they'll hear about the race. Like, Julian Howe, Julian Howe, he distributed like 200 of those postcards at the Chico race a week and a half ago, advertising for the race. And I guess the sentiment is that as things get closer to race day, people start checking the weather and they're like, is this something I want to pay for to do? Because it's going to be 75 degrees and sunny, or it's going to be, 45 degrees, raining and miserable. So,
Fair
anyway.
weather riders.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Us marathoners, we don't have that luxury because you gotta train for
Do
it.
Commit.
You gotta decide early on if you're gonna do it. So anyway. So yeah, it's definitely a consideration, but yeah, I think you're right, Greg. There's definitely some goodness here of just, having at their finish, opening up to other groups that want to kind of advertise what they do around here, and that move-in thing or whatever it is might be helpful. Any other thoughts, team? Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, may I have a motion to approve the $7,000 grant request from the Greenville Rotary for their Century Ride?
I move.
Greg Walsh,
I'll second.
Matt Fogarty seconds, and Lyda,
Yes.
Marcia Roby,
Yes.
Danny Steyer,
Yes.
Greg Walsh,
Yes.
Matt Fogarty,
Yeah.
Shelby Leone,
Yes.
and Dax Albrecht.
Yes.
All right. Great. We're knocking them down, team. All right. Well, thank you, and I'll let the Rotary know. And yeah, we'll just keep moving on that. So thank you very much and good questions. And I'll definitely follow up with everything that you all described or that you offered. The next item I have on here is the long-term recovery plan, and I just wanted to kind of give like a little bit of background. Been meeting with Tracy Ferguson, Paul Merzinski, Zachary Gately, who's the grant manager. And I brought up this a couple times with regard to like the cover art. That was one issue. But the long-term recovery plan is being drafted by the county went with a company called Minter Harnish, and then parts and pieces of the text to that is going to go so that it can be actually developed into the actual long-term recovery plan and be essentially like a booklet that's out on the street, that's on websites and so on and so forth. And also in keeping with that is that tomorrow, if I don't know if y'all have time, either to Zoom in or be there in person, but so the Board of Supervisors, the Plumas County Board of Supervisors, they will be articulating their both their principles, their funding principles and priorities as it relates to their own county settlement dollars and just kind of like their county way ahead with regard to the long-term recovery plan and planning projects. And so, you know, there's obviously there's agreement in some areas, there's disagreement in others, which is all part of the process. But you know, there's been some very adamant impressions, like in the social media realm. There's been, you know, folks that have been contacting, or I think the last time that they discussed this was in April, the last meeting. They had a draft, and then it was back to the drawing board with the draft. So, but the Board of Supervisors meeting goes tomorrow at 10 a.m. So if you want to be there in person, by all means, it's in the supervisors' chambers. And then, of course, there's a Zoom link that's featured on the county website. If you go to meetings and agenda on their homepage, I believe, then usually you can find like the day. Yeah, it's like it's a middle tab. Here, let me share my screen real quick. Right here, you click on meetings and agendas, and then usually something pops up. And then, yeah, you'll see tomorrow's Board of Supervisors meeting. Then if you click here, you can get a PDF of the agenda and then all the backup information if you want it. So, but anyway, I just bring that up because it'd be, you know, interesting to kind of hear what the supervisors articulate as their principles and priorities. It's in there. I took a look already. And I think there's 3 and 3. I think there's 3 principles and 3 priorities, and it's all very like kind of like wave top. Like there's nothing specific insofar as like we're gonna give, you know, we plan to fund, you know, $1 million towards this thing. I think that, you know, the goal here is that they kind of put out these foundational elements first, and then they'll get into those more detailed discussions about what that actually looks like to what they're gonna fund. They made it very clear, like time and time again, really, since I've been doing this, like October 23, that there's a lot of like they felt that the county has kind of holes in their own budget from what they expended during the actual fire, like in that initial kind of relief time, you know, in the end of summer, fall of 21. So, you know, some of the funding they've indicated, but they haven't specified, may have to go to that, right? That I don't understand all of it, but sometimes like there might be some refunding of FEMA to some degree in Cal OES. So anyway, that stuff is going to come at a later date, but right now they're talking about these foundational elements. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that, and by all means, any type of listening or contribution you want to make, please feel free to do so as you see fit. Any questions on that? Okay. So I'm going to go. Right now, my plan is just to kind of listen to what all that's about, like what they're going to conclude, and then I'll follow up as it applies.
Yeah.
Also, I sent out, did you guys get I sent out a memo that was created by Ben Hoffman sent it out. And I know Greg and Marcia, you all had some questions with regard to the Plymouth Housing Council. So that was kind of a memo that is just like an updated summary, if you will. So I sent that out this morning. It's just a couple pages.
Is that the
But
one from Almanor Foundation?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's Almanor Foundation up on the top right-hand corner. Yeah. By all means, please, read through that and, feel free to contact Ben and Tyler directly or the Almanor Foundation directly with additional questions. And I can try to answer them as best I understand it as well. Okay. Well, moving ahead a little bit, we'll get into the scheduling part. So scheduling, this Sunday, I'm leaving for 2 weeks for military stuff. But I'll be back on either Saturday the 24th or Sunday the 25th. So our next regularly scheduled meeting is on the 19th, and I should be able to do that. So right now I'm going to plan that I can do the steering committee meeting on the 19th. And so I should have an internet connection, or should be able to get to an internet connection to be able to host the meeting and have any products to you all before that. So we can still carry on and not miss that. The other thing that I want to talk about is scheduling in June, because I have another military engagement starting on Sunday the 15th and going till like Saturday the 28th. So I'll be gone the last 2 weeks of June. And so I'm recommending that we do the June or the next community meeting on June 14th. Just because I can be here to do that. Any reservations about that?
June 14th is a Saturday. Oh,
It
you're
is a
talking about a
Saturday. Yeah, the
community
next
meeting.
for the next
Community meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's a big rally in Quincy that day at 1 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
What kind of rally?
No Kings rally.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's tough, right? There's only so many dates available. I physically won't be able to do it the following weekend.
Yeah, I could just leave early.
Okay, fair enough. So does June 14th sound good to everybody?
Yeah.
And I'm on the other continent, so.
Yeah, you'll be doing your
I'm
hike.
not here. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that'll work. We'll do that on 6/14/25, and then I'll be back at the end of the month, and I don't know yet if I'll be able to. Well, I don't know yet about my schedule to be able to host the. We'll have 2 meetings in June. One will be on Monday the 2nd for steering committee, and one will be on Monday the 16th. I might be able to do the 16th one, but I'm not sure yet. I won't know for probably another month. So we'll just kind of stand by on that one. And then so one of the things when I get back in June that so this position is funded really through July and August. And as I've talked before, that is for me, I would say the end of August is when I will resign or be done based off of the funding of this this coordinator position. And I could pull this up, Danny's he sent out his treasurer's report here, so everybody's got an inbox. I'll pull up the this one and share it. So what I'm proposing, because I don't think that this line number 7, the $506,000 will be completely expended at that point. You know, with the funds that you all approved today, 25 plus 7, that's $32,000. So
Four 74 now.
yeah, there you go. So there's a reduction, and there might be some larger grant requests coming in. You know, like we do have a grant request from the food pantry for roughly $20,000, and worked with Debbie Castle on that last week. And so that'll be on our next meeting's agenda, is their grant request.
The gravel grant?
I'm sorry?
Grant? Gravel?
Oh, and then there's the potential for the gravel grant with the Plymouth Fire Safe Council. And then there's a potential with the Friends of Warner Valley. It would be the Friends of Warner Valley working with the Sierra Institute and the Mido Summit Consortium. So there's potential there as well. And then actually the Indian Valley Community Services District just put in a large grant, but I need to follow up with really their general manager to kind of make sure that that's exactly what they're asking for. But anyway, if we get to August and there's still funding that remains, right? My recommendation would be to have like a part-time person that's a conduit between you all and North Valley Community Foundation. Now, there's a potential course of action for this insofar as Plymouth Rural Services has the disaster case management program is done, and they are in the position where they may need to give funds back to North Valley Community Foundation for the money that's provided for that program. When I was talking to two of the individuals that were the resource coordinators, there's an opportunity, I think, to run a resource center out of here in Greenville, out of this office that I sit in, and that there could be the potential for a part-time, meeting secretary from one of those resource coordinators to work with the steering committee still and be a conduit to North Valley, so that when you have and when a grant request comes in to North Valley Community Foundation, then they can distribute the materials to you, and then they can be your meeting secretary, much in the way that I have been. And then you're talking about a handful of hours a month. Like, I can't imagine there'd be more than, 10 hours a month or something like that. And Danny, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just kind of comment on what you said about Plymouth Rural Services. We did approve funding for that. There's a grant sitting out there, and it's been approved, but it hasn't been paid out. And I think that might be some of the funding that you're talking about, you're alluding to, that has said, but because it hasn't been paid out, it's sitting there and it's debited against account, but it's not gone.
So I was talking to Kim about that, and basically what would have to happen, just to make sure that it's very, sort of orderly, is to make sure that they being PRS would just resubmit for a whole different grant application, so that those funds would be repurposed if they were indeed going to be the holders of a resource center. I reached out to the Plymouth Crisis Intervention Response Center, PCIRC, and they were interested, but they're not interested in doing something short term, which, looking at, the potential for like a year, that was too short term for them. They actually wanted to build something and have like a full-time, resource center here, but it's super unclear how that would work, because there's just not funding to build a building for PCIRC, and they don't have the money for it either. So, Greg, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, on your last alternative, would there be, for having a part-time person in the office, would we be paying rent on the office as well?
Well, so the rent I would recommend including that into the budget for the resource center, since that would be its primary purpose. So the rent would come from like if it ends up being Plymouth Rural Services, they pay the rent, because I'm paying the rent now. The Dixie Fire Collaborative is paying the rent now, but then we would, transition that at some point, like when I'm kind of wrapping up. Like if, let's say I'm done in August at the, August 31st, and I'm just kind of using that as like an arbitrary timeline at the end of the month, then, another organization, whether it be PRS or anybody else, they pick up the rent on September 1st, That's what I would recommend. But part of this is I also, like I'm working on, getting like resumes out and things like that to other, to get another job. So I gotta like turn to do that. So that I have something to where I'm kind of overlapping from one job to the next.
Okay.
Important to eat, Patrick.
I'm fine. It's just
Yeah, no, but
I got a family and everything.
yeah.
So anyway, so that's kind of like that I just wanted to kind of like, talk about that timeline and kind of what the impacts are over the next couple months. And having those two back-to-back military engagements is a little tricky, but it's just kind of what it is this year. All right, any questions or comments on that? The other thing is that like that's an idea that I had, but if somebody else has a better idea or something they think is going to be more effective, by all means. Like I don't know. I mean, as long as like Kim and team can get in contact and with the steering committee on what could be, less. I don't know. I mean, it's tough to speculate where that dollar amount's going to be in August. But let's say it's down to like $150,000 that's still left in the fund that you all would want to meet around to discuss. And as grants come in, just having that connective, those channels already identified, and then also just the administration, just the homework on the minutes and whatnot. So that's all. All right. We're moving right along here. So, what's not here is if I accidentally left that off, but we're committee member updates. Danny, did you want to provide any additional context around the treasurer's report?
No, I think we covered it and just brief look at the bottom line there, and taking off that 32K that we just approved, brings us down to what did I say, about 474K of funds left to disperse. So, and it sounds like we have some targets coming in and moving in the right direction. So we have the funds. So
Yeah. Okay. Lyda, did you want to share anything with the team?
I have nothing new.
Okay. Marcia?
Yeah, so I had reached out to Ben and to Tyler just individually to ask them, what was going on with the housing, mostly because I was curious and because I had heard that they had been going higher and higher up with Pacific, California.
SPI, Sierra Pacific?
Yeah, Sierra Pacific. And that they might be closer to a breakthrough, but he said no, that they decided not, that they did not want to help them out, that they wanted to build houses in Quincy because they were in Quincy and they didn't see the benefits of us being a commuter, community. So that was too bad. That kind of, but what he wrote up was good, and that they're still working on it and they're leveraging the money that we.
Hey, Matt. Hey, Matt. Here, actually, I got you. I'm gonna meet. I just muted. You're good.
Oh, what's a what?
Oh, I just muted Matt just because there was
Oh.
some background, so it was tough to hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, just to get an update on how they're doing. And I was in part of the housing meeting this week, just listening. They had a really wonderful, articulate woman from Bliss Branding, just talking about this Welcome Greenville idea. And so that was really interesting. And then I brought Karen Morcom cookies today to welcome her to my Main Street community, and hoping she'd give me a tour of her house, which she did.
Mhm.
But and I talked about the sidewalks. So, I walk from my house downtown, and there are places on the sidewalk I almost cannot walk because some of the walls have have fallen over and there's a piece of cement. I have to pick up my feet really, high so I don't trip. And she said that PG&E was fixing some of the sidewalk, but really only the parts that the fire had messed up. So, like, who would you talk to about the?
Yeah, so the sidewalks, like the sidewalks will be one of the last things to get repaired, period. In addition to like, there's still going to be a tremendous amount of work that needs to be done on the resurfacing of Main Street and Highway 89. All that'll be like the last thing that happens. And I wish I had a timeline for you, but it might be 3 years, it might be 5 years. Rob Thorman, who is our Public Works Director, I've talked to him about it a couple of times, and he's very aware. But there's, I mean, for obvious reasons, the amount of times that people have even, said, why are they ripping up the road now? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? And all these things are going to keep happening until the work is actually finally done. The Streetscape Committee, I thought are you on the Streetscape Committee?
Yeah, I'm on the Streetscape Committee.
Okay. I talked
That
to
was
Josh
on the
Huddleston.
highway. It was on the
Okay.
highway. It wasn't on Main Street.
Yeah, I thought it was Josh Huddleston. I brought it up, and with regard to the Main Street area, particularly from where Anna's used to be up to where, say, the American Legion is now. That area I thought it was going to be like phase 2 of the Streetscape Committee. I don't know. But at the end of the day is that those sidewalks probably aren't going to get touched until that entire road gets touched again to be like the final thing. I say 3 years, I say 5 years. It could happen next year. I don't really know. I'll follow up with Rob again and see if maybe I can have him come to one of these meetings or a community meeting to kind of talk specifically about it. That's another one, like tomorrow for about the foundational things about the priorities and principles of the funding, like the actual funding for the roads and sidewalks and stuff like that. That's still out there too. And so like, is the county going to use their settlement dollars to support that? Or I think in some cases, sometimes there's the county can apply for grant funding from either Caltrans or the U.S. Department of Transportation for things of that nature. So, but I'll try to get a better answer for you, Marcia. Yes, Danny, go ahead.
Well, I think we need to jump up and down and scream a bit because, somebody's going to fall down and really hurt themselves. And then they're going to have a lawsuit on their hand. I think there's some stuff out there that's majorly wrong that has, if they want to have pretty sidewalks, one thing, but they have some major work that has to be done before somebody gets hurt.
Yeah, that's fair too, Danny. I mean, you're absolutely right. I just, like that one cuts both ways insofar as like if they repair them and then a year from now they rip them up because now the real work begins, and then what happened to the $1 million that they spent on the first set of sidewalk, But yeah, it's a good
$1 million, but they should take there's some trip hazards. So
yeah,
Marcia's point.
You both bring up great points. They're 100%, it'd be great if they could be fixed right now. The PG&E work is being done because PG&E is contracted with the concrete company that's out there now to specifically repair things that PG&E ripped up or tore up in their undergrounding pursuits. So that company that you see right now that's doing kind of a slab here and a slab there, that's all because of the work that was done last year and then into some of this year.
Right.
Yeah, I'll find out. I'll see if we can get something. Okay. Marcia, Danny, Greg, do you have anything for the team?
There we go. Yeah, working on the Gold Diggers Day. Yeah, I'm going to be going to the chamber meeting when we end this up, and meeting with Karen Morecombe. You brought her up, and so we're going to be exchanging a lot of phone numbers and sort of dialing in more on who we're targeting in order to get them all into the parade. Is what we're focused on. So
great. Thank you, Greg. Matt.
All's well in Crescent Mills. We've got working hard on the hotel and the store, applying for the alcohol licenses. I'm going to be applying for an ordinance change to allow dispensaries So I hope all the smokers on the call are going to support me in that. Come out. It's going to be it's a big deal. We can probably get 2 or 3 additional businesses in Quincy. In Plymouth County. It's like a big thing. Most people smoke here, but it's ridiculous we can't buy it. Anyway, that's one thing. We've got the Crescent Mills is all happening. We've got 2 new bus stops going in and a new crosswalk, and we're resurfacing the road. Well, Caltrans is doing that in the next 2 months. So Crescent Mills is going to look super different in 3 or 4 months' time once we get the store and the hotel and the road all fixed. So looking forward to that.
Great. Thanks for that update, Matt. Shelby, anything for the team?
No updates.
Okay. And Dax, anything?
Yeah, just a little bit of news on the Indian Falls community water system. On Friday, we have a contractor coming out to look at our spring box so that we can get an estimate on the cost to rehabilitate that finally. So that's real good. And then, once we have that dollar number on that part of the project, we'll probably be coming back to the steering committee, maybe looking to fund the balance of our project, getting the water system back up. So just keep that on your guys' radar as far as fund requests in the next month or so.
But how much is that going to be, Dax? Ballpark?
I really don't know yet at this point. I think we have, I want to say, around 15,000 remaining from the first round that the steering committee allocated. And then yet we still need to buy filtration equipment and get the spring box repair are the 2 big things we're looking to do. So once we get that estimate, I'll bring it to you guys and we'll take it from there.
And just to be clear, Dax, if this gets repaired, then this is able to provide water for how many residences?
Well, there's 14 hookups on the system.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, I'll let you know how it all goes, and hopefully we can get that to you guys sooner than later.
Cool. Well, thanks for the update, Dax.
Yeah,
So
thanks.
14 hookups in Indian Falls. Okay.
Oh, it's Matt and Patrick, is there any more update on signage? I heard Sandy Hampton was making a bunch of signs. I don't know if that's for us or.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's for. Yep. So there's 12 businesses that are in, and then there's, I think, 1 on a wait list. Like if there's like money left over, they're trying to budget it enough to because not all the businesses need the same thing, right? So there was up to $3,000 per business that could be utilized, but not everybody, like some people are just like their needs can be met with like $600 or $700. So they're trying to make it go as far as possible. In addition to Wild Hair Signs in Quincy, Sandy Hampton with her, I think her business is called Rugged Woodworks. And she's been able to design and make a couple signs for some of the business owners.
Great. We look forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
Did the new signs at Young's Market come from this project?
So that actually came, I believe that, no, they didn't. Those new signs came from the $20,000 for-profit business economic development grant that Plymouth County provided. So if you recall, that one launched in like July, August of last year. And that's done on a rolling basis. And actually, I drove up and down the canyon 2 weeks ago to advertise for that again, because there are businesses that in the canyon that can take advantage of that. And then also got back around here with some businesses that may be able to take advantage of it as well. Evergreen was one of them. J&C Paving. And then there's another firewood, like a firewood business. I can't remember what they're called. Randy Hovland, his business and his daughter's business. Anyway, taking a look to see who else can apply. For that's the one that the county, and that's through a community development block grant that they received a couple years ago as well.
Cool.
Yeah. But yeah, trying to work on some stuff for Taylorsville, those businesses, and also maybe something that helps direct people to Taylorsville from the intersection there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of complexity with that because of being like a state highway and, you know, whatever, but we'll figure out something.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns from the team? And okay. And with that, may I have a motion to adjourn today's meeting at 4:38?
I move that we, Marcia,
Okay. Thank you, Marcia. Second?
I'll second.
Matt, I got you. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
All right. Any opposed?
Wait, before everyone drops off, like we've got the yard sale is coming up 17th and 18th, so it's time now to get rid of all your crap. Pull it all out of your closets. Don't put it back in. Pull it all out of your garage. Don't put it back in. It's all going to the yard sale. Make some money. Get rid of your shit. If you want in on that, just send me a text. I'll send you a link to a form to fill in. We'll get you on there. But thank you. Sorry.
Great. Oh, thanks for the plug, Matt.
All right.
All right. I hope everybody has a good evening.
yeah, you do.
Thank you,
Thank
Patrick.
you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Everybody.